Alright guys, welcome back to another MCreator tutorial. So if I'm speaking a little weird, it's because I had to get a wisdom tooth pulled out and my jaw's still really sore. So just the heads up if I'm like having problems speaking and stuff. Let's basically cover null values today, and you might have seen the some of the blocks in MCreator for procedures that say null right on the side here. Basically, to kind of explain what my understanding is of null, it's basically no value or an empty value, basically something that can't be used. So I've experienced this same problem with a lot of Godot projects and stuff like that, so I have a kind of understanding of how null basically works. But in short, when there isn't a value and you're trying to do something like, for example, this, what's going to happen is it's going to crash the software of what you're working on. In this case, it's basically going to crash game because there's absolutely no value and we're trying to deal damage to something that isn't there. So we'll be covering just a quick example, looking at the error, and then we'll be basically fixing this up. So let's go ahead and save this, and then we'll go into MCreator or in-game, and we'll give this a quick try on a pig. Alright, so I am currently in game, and we're going to right click on the game or the pig, and then we immediately get a crash. So this looks very complicated, and honestly it's the only first two lines pretty much is the only thing that we need to look at. So right at the top here, right when it started, we have basically a little bit of an information, and then there's all this blob here that's going on. We might even be able to see somewhere in this with the green links and stuff where the procedure is that's causing the issue. Usually we have some sort of event somewhere in here that will list it, but we're not too worried about that at the moment. I just want to show you, if we scroll a little bit past right along this line here, we can basically see that way at the back here, it basically says is null. So basically that's our problem, is it's basically returning a null value. And in this case, we're trying to find a cat, deal damage to that cat, which is not anywhere near the pig at the time. So we don't actually have a cat anywhere near, so this causes a crash. So to fix this is actually really simple. All you need to do is you need to pass over a value. So we're going to create a entity variable for this one because we're working with an entity in this case. So we're going to use entity, and then we're just going to call it something like cat, for example. And then what we can do is we can go ahead and pass over the entity to this one. Now this also supports like the entity type. It also supports null. So we can't actually just put this here because it's still going to be a null value. But we can actually do something else. We can actually go ahead and go to advanced. And there is one right here where it says blank is not equal to null. So we can check if the value is not null. Now, to know what one is not null, it's a little hard to see, but there's a line going diagonally, like a slash, like you would use for a folder or something like that. It would be that /. And then there's an equal sign on top of that. So basically what this means is not equal to. A regular equal sign is basically equal to null. So we don't want equal to null because we're having problems with null it being null. So we don't want it to be null. We want it to be not equal to null. And then after we've checked this, we can actually pass this over to the event here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and create an else statement just for testing purposes to show you basically what's going on. So we're going to go ahead and print out a value here. We're just going to say, is it not null? Not null. And then we're going to say null. And what will happen is we'll get one of these two messages depending on if the condition is true or not. Actually, you know what? We're going to do something a little bit easier, we're just going to print out the message to the player because it's actually easier to see in game than it is in console. So we'll do this instead. So we'll just print out that message, and then we'll print out this message here. And we don't want it on the action bar because that's a little bit small text, but we can see it in chat. So let's go ahead and save this and test that out. Okay, so I did kind of a stupid thing. I forgot to pass it over to source entity because that's what the players, not the entity event/target entity. Easy mistake. So now we'll be able to test. Right, so I have two holes. I have this one right here, which has just a single pig in it. And then quite a distance away, we have a cat and a pig. So we can test both of these conditions out. There should be far enough apart. We only really need technically like 4 blocks away from the pig to actually make it work. So let's go ahead and right click on this, and we can see that this is null. So if we go ahead and go over to the cat one, we'll just clear that. And we'll go ahead and right click on the pig. And we can see it says not null. So, and the cat also took damage because that's what we did for the procedure. So other than that, that's basically how it all works. It's pretty simple. If you want to run it for other conditions, there might be other blocks in here that might contain null. You just basically do this, you just put the value that would be null into this block here, and it should be able to detect if it is null or not null, and just make sure that it's the one, the equal sign with the cross through it, and then run your script, which should be causing the issue. So basically, in this case, we had a cat that didn't exist, so we needed to make sure that it wasn't null. So hopefully this makes sense. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to subscribe, comment down below, rate the video, and if you want to hang out with other MCreator users, I have a good Discord server, and it's great. We have a lot of active members on there, and I hope to see you there. Outside of that, thanks for watching. Peace out.